For many, the worm is a simple creature, living under the earth, eating the dead and decaying matter found there. And you might be thinking that there's not much to be interested in the humble worm. But without the worms, the world would be a very different place. Piled high with fungus and mould and all manner of rotten and slimy waste. Over the years, there have been many myths and legends about the worm. Once upon a time, the word worm meant any animal without legs, including snakes, lizards, and even dragons. Over the centuries, with the advent of the dictionary and the human desire to narrow down the language of classifications, the word mainly became something to describe those pink, wriggly things that live in the dirt. In the microcosm, an abundance of worms exists beyond what one might initially expect. One such worm is the nematode, a term you've likely heard before. While the nematode can have both positive and negative impacts, the term itself is quite general, akin to words like green or world. Nematodes are incredibly diverse, with over 30,000 known species. Among these, there are some that benefit us, such as the sternonema. This type of nematode is an entomopathogenic worm that invades, infects, and ultimately kills insects that like to feed on our crops. Certain nematodes can be unpleasant and cause infections in humans, such as ascariasis, hookworm, and enterobiasis. These illnesses can be quite grim to describe, so if you're interested in learning more about them, please refer to the description below. However, be warned that the details may not be appetizing. We know more about the infectious parasitic nematodes, mainly because we want to make ourselves better before we worry about anything else. So research is still ongoing into the other types of nematodes that may be beneficial or just neutral to our survival. There is a very famous quote that you've most likely heard from the American father of nematology, Nathan Augustus Cobb, and I quote, "If you remove everything from the earth except for the nematodes, then there will be a spherical shell of nematodes corresponding to the soils, rivers, and oceans of the world. Not only this, but there will be clusters of parasitic nematodes which define where the animals they infected lived." Cobb was dedicated to the research of nematodes. He spent most of his life with an eye to the microscope and was a brilliant inventor, inventing much of the equipment used today in the study of these little worms. But I digress. Nematodes are a small part of the larger group of organisms referred to as worms. There are others, such as the Aeolosoma you can see wriggling around on your screen. Commonly known as a detritus or bristleworm for their preferred habit of living and feeding in the muck at the bottom of a body of water. And the bristle part? Well, I'm sure you can guess how they got that name. They are found in all waters, both marine and fresh, and are very closely related to the common earthworm. With a separate digestive system powered by simple muscular contractions, which combined with the predilection to eat dead decaying matter, breaking it down into smaller, more accessible nutrients for bacteria to finish off, makes them a very important part of the ecosystem. Bacteria have the ability to decompose larger pieces of matter, but this process takes a considerable amount of time. Moreover, certain plant materials are highly resistant to the chemicals released by bacteria that break down their nutrients into smaller particles. This means that if it weren't for worms, we would be overwhelmed with hard woody bits. The Aeolosoma worm, along with other microscopic animals, speed this process along dramatically, allowing the circle of life to continue at the correct and right pace. They themselves are also part of the food chain, and many can grow to quite large sizes, up to 3 millimeters in length, and provide a high protein nutrition for many small fish and invertebrates, such as insect larvae, which in turn provide food for larger creatures, and so on and so on. They also keep the detritus at the bottom of a body of water from getting too compacted by burrowing through and shifting the debris, mitigating a dramatic aerobic anaerobic divide, which would kill off a fair number of microbial organisms. The most commonly found bristleworm is called the Aeolosoma hempreci, and is usually found, well, everywhere. We've even found them in our tropical fish tank, hiding in the sponge filter we have. This one you can see now is less common, or at least less studied. We have struggled to find anything to help us identify it further than its genus. It perhaps has a name, perhaps not, but we've called it basil for now. The bristleworm uses its parapodia to move along the debris and detritus that is found in its home. The parapodia, and in turn the bristles or setae, are controlled by muscles in its body that are attached to its skin. When it moves a certain way, they flatten against the body, and when it moves in the opposite way, they stick out, allowing the worm to have a very strong grip on the sometimes sparse and shifting muck around them. As you can see, they have very good control of their setae and use them, rather like we use our hands. Basil was found in one of Michelle's emptying containers. It's the container that she uses to wash the slides into after a session behind the microscope. We do try to keep things alive as best we can, which can be a little challenging, especially when you can't really see them. Basil is a hermaphrodite. This means that it can reproduce itself without having to share genetics with another worm. Honestly, it's the weirdest thing. The baby worm grows from the back end of the worm. Its head is literally the bum of the parent. I can't imagine the therapy needed to sort out those issues. Well, anyway, as the young worm grows, the digestive tract of the parent passes through its child, feeding and nourishing it until it is ready to detach. Now, you would think that this is pretty traumatic to the worm's body, this detachment, but surprisingly, it isn't. You see, Aeolosoma worms have a very remarkable regeneration, meaning they can recover from practically any damage taken to their body. So, a baby one breaking away from its parent is nothing to these remarkable creatures. As long as they have their head, they can regenerate pretty much any amount of damage, and as long as the osmotic pressure is kept stable, they're pretty much good to go. Basil will have many children in their lifetime, which is on average 69 days. The strange thing about these worms is as they get older, they start to produce less and less offspring. Normal, one might say, and you'd be right. However, Rosanna Falconi and Tommaso Renzulli published a study on the reproductive habits and resulting offspring with Aeolosoma viride, and found that the older a worm was when it produced offspring, the less offspring that child would produce itself, showing that the genetic degradation carries over to the offspring. The regeneration capabilities of these wonderful worms is rather astounding. A study performed by numerous scientists showed conclusively that even if one of these worms was split into segments, each part would then grow out a new head, digestive system, and become a whole new worm within 3 to 5 days. During this time, the worm doesn't seem to be able to move from resting until all of its insides are, well, inside. Like all bristleworms, basil is a suction feeder, which is exactly like what you think it is. They are tiny little hoovers, literally sucking up food which they swallow using the cilia inside their mouth to push the food down into their digestive tract. Once they have what they need, the waste then passes out the back end through its anus and back into the world. As mentioned before, this waste is then either eaten by smaller creatures such as ciliates, or broken down further by bacteria. It's a wonderful system, don't you think? Let's say thank you to the worms. We hope you have enjoyed your voyage into the microscope as much as we did taking you along with us. If you would like to see more from us, you can find us on Instagram at Voyage into the Micro, and there is bound to be a subscribe button somewhere around here.